Hello everyone, and welcome to SUNUP. I'm Lyndall Stout. As summer starts to draw to a close, fall calving season is gearing up, along with the question, how to get the most from those calves.
OQBN, or the Oklahoma Quality Beef Network, is a network where we try to add value to your cow herd and in turn add value to the whole beef production system within the state of Oklahoma is the idea.
This is done primarily with a VAC 45 preconditioning program, which means calves must be verified to be weaned 45 days prior to sale, along with a series of management protocols. And now there's a program for stockers as well.
There is what we call a pre-con program with the OQBN, and that's for cattle that have been purchased from several different locations. They may not be home-raised calves. The only difference is you have to have those cattle owned for a minimum of 60 days versus 45 days.
With cattle prices sitting at record levels, it's natural to wonder if you need the extra value from calves. But Maurer explains why there is added demand for these preconditioned calves.
These cattle buyers, they're spending a lot of money for these stalker calves and these feeder calves. So they do want some sort of insurance on the health of that calf. Some respiratory disease, BRD, it's the most cost prohibitive challenge that we have in the feedlot. And they're willing to pay that $75 to $100 a head more if they can prevent to doctor that calf in the feedlot or in the stalker phase.
Producers average $1.15 to $1.25 per pound of preconditioned gain. Meanwhile, the cost in hay, feed supplement, and medicine is only 75 to 80 cents per pound. And with this summer's healthy pastures, costs can go even lower.
We got some really great grass this time of year. It's August. We've been getting these periodic rains pop up in the state right now. And so grass is still available and it's still reasonably high quality. So we can do away with some of that hay and go out in a nice grass trap and still provide some supplement to that animal at a 14%, 15% type supplement at about 2% of body weight or 2 pounds a day, depending on what we're feeding that animal.
Producers looking to take part in the OQBN sales are advised to make their decisions soon.
September 15th is the first weaning date to meet the first sale at the end of October. One thing that's changed a little bit this year is that some livestock auctions, some of the owners have chose to move their sales up by a week or two.
If you'd like more information on this program, contact your county extension office or visit our website, sunup.okstate.edu. From cattle prices to crops in the field, without question, the weather and its unpredictability is on the minds of Oklahoma producers. And that's what led to an entire day devoted to this topic and how it impacts Oklahoma agriculture. On the heels of the toughest wheat crop outcome in more than a half century, just in time for planting season, it's time to talk weather.
We're seeing much more erratic wheat yields across the state. We've seen devastation to our cattle herds, and so folks are really looking at those weather patterns to try to get a handle on what they can expect.
The first ever Oklahoma Ag Weather Symposium, bringing together producers, commodity leaders, scientists, and extension experts.
That's why we figured it'd be good to come to the National Weather Center to maybe look at some of the data and some of the predictions that they're going to have out for us today. So producers can maybe kind of plan and see what they're up against, maybe long term, even the next 5 to 10 years.
Wow, the weather, has been anything but predictable except for the drought.
OSU's wheat genetics and breeding expert Brett Carver and other scientists say these prolonged conditions translate to valuable research and insight.
This has given us an opportunity to select for drought resistance that we have not had the opportunity before. And one of the interesting things about last year was we just had drought. We didn't have all these other factors that interfered with drought, and so we could concentrate on how the plant was responding to the lack of water.
In his area, Carver believes producers are more open to seeking a number of management solutions to weather challenges. Case in point, producer David Gamble of Cotton County, who is always adapting.
We'd had a disaster the year before, and so we fertilized for a good crop and put herbicide and fungicide one year because the crop looked so good, and then the drought would kick back in, and then the late freezes would kick in 2 of those years, and we'd still lose the crop.
Gamble's also exchanging ideas here with fellow farmers.
We look for how other producers have handled it, and we also come here to listen to the weather experts and maybe get some hope that we're nearly to the end of it.
The overall message: weather is complex, and there are no simple answers.
If I'm just going to give one angle of it, and that's through genetic improvement, but there are many other ways to do that, and hopefully they'll understand how all those combined come together to make wheat production and agriculture production in the state so much more successful.
And I think everybody's experience from the different regions of the state are going to be different, and so I think it gives everybody else perspectives from maybe different producer approaches in those regions as to some of the things that they're dealing with that they might not necessarily be dealing with in their own region.
Hi, I'm Al Sutherland with your Mesonet Weather Report. 2014 continues to be a year of surprises. Not the usual severe storms and crashing winds, but unexpected temperatures, rain, and dry weather. Here's a 3-day rainfall map with totals for Monday, Tuesday, and Wednesday of this week. The surprise is having so much rain in the Panhandle and so little in the rest of the state. The green areas had over an inch, and there were a couple of locations of intense storm cells that had over 4 inches. Another surprise was the low number of really hot days this summer. Our latest round of heat lasted about a week, from Wednesday of last week to Tuesday of this week. Locations in the dark burgundy areas on a map of consecutive days with highs at or above 100 through Tuesday were at 7 days in a row of 100+ temperatures. On Wednesday, only 2 locations hit 100, Granfield in the southwest and Oilton towards the northeast. Looking back at heat over the summer so far, there are 41 Mesonet locations that have never had a 100-degree day, and another 8 Mesonet sites that have had only one day reach 100 or more. That's 49 sites out of 120. Granfield, our top hotspot, has had 30 days of 100 or higher maximum air temperatures this summer. In 2011, Granfield had 101 days at or above 100 degrees. And what is surprising on our map are the sites with less than 10 100 days, like Goodwell, Slapout, Arnett, Cheyenne, Fort Cobb, Apache, Bernieville, and Medill. We finish up August with another batch of rain. These rains are needed to get the wheat crop up and growing for fall grazing. When we checked soil moisture in the top 4 inches before the rain, the numbers were discouraging. The majority of Mesonet sites were in dark brown map areas, indicating extremely low % of plant available water. Only one site came in with high moisture, Eufaula, at 95% plant available water. For fall planting, folks are also concerned with soil temperatures. On Wednesday, the 3-day average soil temperature at 4 inches under bare soil was over 80 degrees for every Mesonet site. 38 sites had soil temperatures of 90 or higher. Along with bringing moisture for fall planted crops and gardens, rain also cools soils, improving seed germination. September can surprise us with high water demand days. Last Sunday, the heat, wind, and low humidity combined to really drive up plant water needs. In the brown-colored areas in western Oklahoma, plant water use was close to 4/10 of an inch. In the yellow-green areas, 3/10 of an inch was common. Even in the green areas, many locations had a water demand close to 1/4 of an inch. That means without some good rains, watering plants around the house in the fall is still important. Thanks for joining us for this edition of the Mesonet Weather Report.
And now for a Farm Bill update, we turn to our Ag Policy Specialist, Jody Campeacci.
Implementation for the 2014 commodity programs is underway. One of the first things that producers are now receiving is a letter and an acreage history report showing what their planted acreage history is for 2008 to 2012. So I've been getting a lot of questions of, what do I do with this? What does this mean? Well, this letter is just going out for producers to look at their information and verify that the information is correct. So they need to look at it, look back through their planted yield history for 2008 to 2012 and verify that those numbers are correct. The letter that they received also has their countercyclical payment yield for each farm number as well. That is the yield that they're going to have the opportunity to update once they receive more information later on the yield update option. I've had a lot of questions about what yields producers can actually use to update, and right now it's a little bit unclear until FSA releases the final rules and regulations. There's a possibility crop insurance yields will be able to be used, but again, it's not clear until the actual rules and regulations come out.
Producers may also consider a base acreage update.
Producers get the opportunity to update their historical base acres, and it's based on acres planted in the 2009 to 2012 crop years. So that acreage report that they received from FSA, it lists the planted acres for, I believe it lists 2008 to 2012, but the actual base update will use the years 2009 to 2012. And there's some decision tools that producers can just plug their numbers in and it'll automatically tell them, okay, here's what your options are for updating your base acres. It's not mandatory, so many producers may actually not want to update their base.
Jody has put together a detailed video on this topic that includes a demonstration and examples. You can find it on our website, sunup.okstate.edu. Just click on the Show Links section on the left-hand side. Climate is a hot topic these days, but very little is known about how the changes could impact ranches in the Southern Plains. SUNUP's Austin Moore takes a look at a new USDA program, hoping to find some answers.
Beef production is about more than just good cattle. It depends on genetics in concert with management, land, and climate.
It requires the use of natural resources, land. It's very dependent on moisture, precipitation, the pattern of precipitation, temperatures, and so on. And so everybody in the beef industry has a different environment. And so you can't apply one set of standards or recommendations to everyone's operation. It just won't work because everybody has a different situation.
To deal with this problem, the USDA's National Institute of Food and Agriculture funded a $10 million integrated research and extension project called Grazing Cap. The work is happening across the Southern Plains, but is headquartered at the USDA's Fort Reno station.
So what we wanted to do is have research sites, starting in Kansas, coming, from Oklahoma State, here in the central part of the state at our station, in the southern part of the state with Noble Foundation, to look at how these systems work in different parts of the climate regime that we see, as well as different forage bases and different herds or different genetics of the animals with the herds that are at different stations.
The research team here is huge and diverse, with simultaneous studies in remote sensing, soil greenhouse gas emissions, moment-to-moment changes in carbon, water, and methane, and even new tools for measuring water in the landscape.
You've got animal science researchers, you've got rangeland researchers, you have agronomists, you've got soil scientists, you've got hydrologists, you've got climatologists, And it's pretty unusual to get that scope of disciplines all coming together to work together on one system and see all of the trade-offs and the interactions, because it's the interactions we don't really understand very well.
One of the issues is greenhouse gas emissions, especially related to agriculture, in this case beef cattle production.
To measure these gases, this special trailer is parked in a pasture with grazing cattle. When they come in for a treat, an animal-specific identifying tag is scanned, and their breath is analyzed for methane and other gases escaping from the rumen.
And so what we're after is to look at individual animal methane production, to start to identify animals individual animals that are efficient at what they do. We can link that to genetic markers and start to identify animal genetics, individual animals that are most efficient at what they do in terms of in forage-based agriculture and grazing.
Improving herd genetics is the long-term goal, but in the short term, this project should improve the management decision tools that producers already have.
You know, if producers are managing their cattle operations to be efficient from an economic standpoint, usually that is very sound environmental management as well, because there's not very much or very little excess nitrogen excretion, there's very little excess phosphorus excretion and so on. And so usually the economic decision, the most profitable economic decision, not always, but most of the time, is also a very sound environmental management practice as well.
We will be talking more about this grant and the many projects within it in the coming weeks. But if you'd like to learn more now, visit our website and look at show links.
Joining us now is Kim Anderson, our crop marketing specialist. And Kim, a lot of market chatter this week. Let's start by taking a look at these flat grain prices.
Yeah, wheat prices, corn prices, and to a certain degree, soybean prices have been flat over the last couple of weeks. In Oklahoma, wheat's around $6.05 right now. Corn around $3.35 in central Oklahoma. You get out the Panhandle, it's $4 a bushel. Sorghum about a dime below corn at $3.25, the Panhandle $3.45, and soybeans in Oklahoma $11 in northern Oklahoma. You get in southern Oklahoma, it's about $10.25.
What other things are people talking about right now?
Well, you know, the world wheat harvest is about 80% complete for this year. You look at U.S. wheat production, 7.7% versus 16% when I started in 1982. The exports, U.S. exports at 17%. In 1982, they were 38%. So what you see is U.S. and Oklahoma prices are determined off the world market. And you can see that even more so if you look at United States wheat production slightly below average, hard red winter wheat production well below average, but yet our price is below average. And that's because we're harvesting a record 26.3 billion bushel world crop.
And in terms of wheat in particular, what's the situation there?
Well, if you look at the hard red winter wheat, I think our prices have probably bottomed out. We've hit that $6 level on that futures price about 3 times. And I think we're looking at slightly higher prices as we go between now and December.
And you think that'll continue?
I think that's going to continue. The sideways, corn and wheat, I think they both bottom. I think you've got the weather in the north, the rain that's going to impact it, maybe reduce quality and quantity a little bit. So I think we've bottomed out on our wheat and corn prices.
Kim Anderson, thanks a lot. We'll see you next week.
Certainly one of the most costly diseases that we have in the beef cattle industry is called neonatal calf diarrhea, and it's what ranchers call calf scours. Calf scours is one of the reasons why I really like fall calving here in Oklahoma, because at this time of the year, with the hot sun beating down and dry pastures, then we have a less chance of a buildup of the pathogens that cause calf scours or calf diarrhea. Nonetheless, in a fall calving season, we still need to be vigilant and watch for those situations where there could be some incidents of calf diarrhea showing up in our herd that could turn into a full-blown epidemic if we don't take care of it. There are some management procedures that I think can really be helpful to reduce the risk of calf diarrhea showing up in your herd. Number one is take good care of the replacement heifers while they're pregnant, because it's those calves from those 2-year-olds that are most likely to get calf diarrhea. And that's because, of course, we have a higher incidence of calving difficulty that causes some stress and strain on that calf. The first calf heifer gives less first milk and therefore has less colostrum, and their calves are more prone then to getting those disease organisms taking over and causing the disease entity. So if we take good care of those first calf heifers, calve them ahead of the cow herd so that their calves aren't exposed to pathogens that were coming from older calves, and those heifers are in good body condition so that they're giving the maximum amount of first milk or colostrum that gets that calf off to the best possible start. Also, we want to think about, during the calving season, removing those pairs from our calving pen as soon as they're mothered up and ready to move on to another pasture, because that way then the older calves that possibly are shedding some of these pathogens won't be exposing that newborn that comes along during the calving season. By separating out the older calves, then we can reduce that transition of calf scour pathogens from one to the next. Then when you're treating with those kinds of treatments that your veterinarian has recommended, and you're working with a few calves that do have calf diarrhea, during the chore time, make sure that's the last thing that you do during that particular chore procedure. In other words, when you're taking care of that sick calf, we want to be able to then go directly to the house, take off the coveralls, clean them, clean our boots, clean our gloves, so that we're not taking those pathogens ourselves onto other calves that we might be working with during the calving season. Just a few of these procedures I think can really reduce the risk of having an outbreak of calf diarrhea in your herd. And certainly if you've run across some situations with some calves that look like they have got calf diarrhea, contact your local veterinarian. Get a chance to find out what the pathogen is so the proper treatment can be put in place to give that calf and you the best chance of a positive outcome. Hey, we look forward to visiting with you again next week on SUNUP's Cow-Calf Corner.
There's a renewed push to look at flood control options for landowners. SUNUP's Dave Deacon takes us to Dewey County to explain.
It's a proven fact. Every drought ends in a flood. And floods can damage soil, property, and even take lives.
And the Hammond flood of 1937, and it resulted in the death of 17 people along the Washita River because the Washita River flooded, and is actually what provided the initiative to form the small watershed flood control program.
Since then, dams have been built across Oklahoma to impede streams. That helps with environmental conservation.
When we hold that water on that floodplain and slowly release it, we limit the amount of erosion that can occur because of those storm events. When we limit that amount of erosion, that prevents the sediment from depositing in our rivers and streams downstream of those dams, but then also in our reservoirs.
You know, the structure behind us is a pretty large watershed project. It provides lots of things for us, cattle water,
and creates opportunities for man-made developments.
They look at a nice shady creek area and say that's a nice home site, and without consideration of what might be upstream.
For example, the dam that we're at is actually east of Leedy, Oklahoma, and was built in 1955. That makes it 59 years old, and over the years has been elevated from a low to a high hazard structure, because if this dam was instantly removed, nearly 164,000 cubic yards of water would flow southeast down this creek and stop about 6 miles later. Remember, 1 cubic yard is 3 feet by 3 feet by 3 feet of water. Again, 164,000 of those will probably take out Oklahoma Highway 47, as well as houses, livestock, and crops along the way.
They've now become more high hazard, and they're moving up in classification because people have built homes downstream of these dams, and if they break and they're not rehabilitated, then there's a high risk or there's a probability there that there could be damages.
Oklahoma has over 2,100 small watershed dams across the state. And as of 2015, over half of those will be at or beyond their desired life. But there's already a program in place to help with that.
They're no different than vehicles or houses or whatever that you're accustomed to. You have to maintain and redo, because time and age wears everything.
This particular structure qualified for the rehabilitation program funding by the U.S. government, U.S. Department of Agriculture and Natural Resources Conservation Service. Through that program, the Natural Resources Conservation Service provides 65% cost share, and then the project sponsor, such as Dewey County Conservation District, with the assistance of state appropriated funding through the Oklahoma Conservation Commission, provides 35% of the funding to modify a structure to bring it up to meet Oklahoma Water Resources Board dam safety criteria.
A project like this is $2 million rehab, and we've got 3 of them projects in Dewey County in the works. That's serious money. You know, money nowadays is hard to come by. So that farm bill was crucial to Dewey County, that we may provide the safety net that people deserve driving down the highway or in their homes below here.
And that safety net of rehabilitated dams is expanding across Oklahoma.
That'll do it for us this week. Remember, you can find us anytime at sunup.okstate.edu, and also follow us on YouTube and other social media. I'm Lyndall Stout, and we'll see you next time at SUNUP.